Welcome back to the Life in a D podcast. I'm your host, and I am so glad to be back for another week. So, Dallas, how y'all feeling this week? Are we sticking to those health goals? Are we doing some home upgrades? Are we living and being a little bit more intentional? Part of this new year and having some new goals is checking in, reflecting, and tracking those stats. So, for me personally, going to the gym has always been something, and living a kind of healthy lifestyle is something that I have been doing for years. But I still check in with and see how the workout's going. I still reflect um, how many pounds am I lifting, how much am I weighing. I still check my measurements on a monthly, quarterly basis, and so that's a good thing to keep up. And I've been keeping up with it, so I'm really happy about that. And also, we talk a lot about heading to the gym in the new year, being more fit, losing weight, eating better, blah, blah, blah. But let's make sure we are also checking in with our mental health. If you need to schedule an appointment for therapy or some um, mental health. So if you need to schedule those therapy sessions, do that. I am a big proponent of therapy. I suggest if you're thinking about it, if you might want to do it, go for it. Therapy is so helpful. I've done it. A lot of people do it. It's not no shame. No shame in it. So go ahead and do that. So for today's pod, we're gonna be talking about the water quality in Dallas. I know some of y'all are like, Tila, what? What kind of podcast is this? What are we doing? But it's an interesting conversation. It's something that we might not think or talk about enough. We're going to get into it. We're also going to talk about our health, homes, and prevention in terms of water. And we're also going to talk about a service based business here in the DFW area that has to do with water filtration. And we're going to do that with my guest today, Will. But before we get into Will's business, let's quickly just kind of talk about what we're going to be talking about, right? So we're going to talk about water, air quality, food quality. I've had some conversations lately with some of my friends and some of my family too, and we've been talking a lot about food quality today. Some of the things that we are eating, we feel like just do not taste the same, right? Some of the ingredients are just they just don't seem as fresh. I bought some cheese the other day, just your basic, like kind of shredded cheese, and I swear it tastes like plastic. Anybody else feel that way? Some of the things that you're eating, you're just like, what even is this? And where do you get quality foods from, right? Some of us shop at farmers markets. Some people, like, I took my mom over the Thanksgiving break, or I think it was the Thanksgiving break. I took her to Whole Foods because she was wanting to get some collard greens. And she's like, I want the best fresh tasting ones. I took her to Whole Foods and she's like, these prices are out of control. And they kind of are. Everything at Whole Foods basically organic. So, the prices are a little bit more. But it was quality product. So, sometimes, we think about that phrase, you get what you pay for. So I don't know. Coming up with our guests, we're going to talk a little bit more about this. But some of the other things that we need to think about and do our research about a little bit is water, the water quality, right? Some of us are living in older homes with aging pipes and might have some hard water concerns. Some of us haven't thought about water quality at all. We just drink whatever is put in front of us, but maybe we should start researching and thinking about the areas that we live in and what kind of water is coming out, and is there a funky smell coming out of your faucet? So just being a little bit more mindful about the environment that we're in. Thank you so much for joining the podcast here tonight. I appreciate your time on a Friday night. So give us a little bit of your background. Tell us a little bit about how you got started, where you come from.
Okay, so I've been in all kinds of uh, basically home improvement. Wow, probably since my first job. Actually, my first job was when I was 16. Actually, 16. I was 18. I'm sorry, I was 18. 16 or 18. I can't remember now. But I started in home improvement with my best friend's dad. He was in stucco. He was in the stucco business, and he was doing a lot of the cowboys and the Mavericks houses, mansions, and so I got started early in it. I found out really quick the things I didn't want to do.
Hmm.
I still tell my kids how terrible it was. 42 degrees, soaking wet, slinging cement around, and that was horrible. But I got a good experience, starting out in that, and then most of my life I've been kind of in and out of construction. I learned real quick I didn't want to be the person doing the fulfillment, like actually doing a lot of the work myself. It's pretty hard work. It's just not where I'm, talented and gifted in. So I've always been in the management side. And so went through a lot of it. I started a cabinet company for an investment firm that I worked for, and went through all the, ebbs and flows of that, sales and install and everything, and saw all the good things and all the, bad things and all the adjustments and things that need to take place. And when I was in that, I always went through the thought of starting my own business. I really wanted to start my own business. I remember having these long conversations with installers who had started their business, and you hearing how horrible it can be and how good it can be. And it reminded me of my childhood. My mom came from business in Mexico. She, through my grandparents, they had a lot of businesses. They did really well in Mexico. She would often say that she came to the United States to be poor, and it was through business that we as a family kind of came up. They started a business, and that kind of showed me what potentially could be. But I also saw a lot of the bad things of it. When there's lean times, it's lean, and there's nobody coming to help you. There is
Yeah.
there is nothing. It's just you and your stuff, your product, your service. So after building.
Like in your culture and stuff, it is very like pressed upon y'all to go ahead and start business. Is that like something as a young age y'all kind of learn like, hey, this is how you survive, this is how you make it?
Yeah, that's a good question because my older brother, he started a business when he was still living at home. He was like 17, 18, and he started buying cars and reselling them. And so he would buy a car, resell it. He was very gifted mechanically, like he could fix any kind of car. And so and he enjoyed it. And then he got really into it. He made pretty good money, and then I got into motorcycles when we were both, it's about 18, 19. I bought my first motorcycle when I was 19 years old. He took it apart, which was horrible for me because it's a brand new motorcycle. but but he learned how to do it. I think one thing that kind of egged me on is seeing him be able to do it, and saw that he one year he made $300,000. Um, yeah, and so that was really cool. I also saw on him it was way easier. That my brother's really cheap. He buys his clothes on eBay and by the pound, and he's always lived really by the pound, by the pound. The clothes that would come in was horrible too. It was not.
Just the most ill fitting, just like whatever it is.
He didn't care. He didn't care. He didn't care about anything. He didn't care about what kind of nice shoes or clothes, or like if he could go spend something this week. He was always thinking about reselling. He was always thinking about business, and that was foreign to me in the sense that I didn't like that idea of kind of living that way.
Yeah.
Um, but fast forward after being around a ton of entrepreneurs and helping them to build, their business. And I had done this, multiple times. I was in charge of a dry cleaning brand, and I was in charge of partially of a car wash brand, and of the cabinets, of starting a cabinet company and a countertop company from ground up, and just seeing how that worked, and just being with them and seeing the freedom they had. They were stressed, but they had freedom. There was nobody looking over their shoulder, questioning their decisions, and just kind of see. But I also saw when they made bad decisions, and I saw, what that brought on. So part of it was scary. A lot of it was scary, but uh, then I got into water. Got into water right after cabinets. When I got into water, yeah, I just saw the potential. Cabinets is all brand new houses, and houses that we used houses are pre-existing, and I saw where people could do that. It's a luxury. Water is different. Water is not really a renewable thing. It's a finite resource, and our water has gotten worse. I'm 44 years old right now, and I think the water from when I was a teenager, so 24, 26 years ago, the hardness of the water would be for Dallas was actually considered soft. So the way that works is the hardness is it's a buildup of minerals of magnesium and calcium. They kind of bind together. They're good for you if you take them individually. If you take them from the tap, not bad for you. But the way that the tap has it is the city puts a lot of chlorine in it, and they started to put ammonia in it with it. So when chlorine and ammonia bind together, they actually make chloramine gas, or otherwise known as mustard gas. when you use your regular house cleaner. So for example, I think all of us have been here where someone is cleaning with like Fabuloso or like some sort of floor. When they mix those together, that's when you get mustard gas. That's what was used in like World War II against us.
It's like, I feel like I've yeah, like, is it
Yeah,
bad? Terrible.
it's a really bad thing because even if you Google, like mustard gas or in the news mustard gas, you'll see that common. It happens really commonly in major cities where just a household cleaners have chemicals in it that do not do well with chlorine and ammonia. And when you have those two mixing together in a small confined space, you'll have a small amount of mustard gas goes off. You'll have people passing out.
Yes.
Yeah, so it happens a lot. So there's chlorine and ammonia that we don't want to drink. The city isn't doing this. The government isn't doing this to hurt us. What they're doing is trying to sanitize the water as it gets to us. I think
Okay.
we've all seen the huge water towers, right? And
Yes.
nobody knows really what they do. They're just kind of like some people will say like, "Oh, that's where all our water comes from." Other people will say like, "Oh no,
Yeah,
it's just like a
like, as a
figurehead."
storage I think we just assume that's a storage of water, especially when you see them in the small towns. I feel like that's where small towns get their water.
Yeah, yeah. It's very vague, it's very ambiguous, nobody knows really what it does. But see, the cool thing about it is once you start to understand what it is, they actually and I think being in DFW, most of us understand water pressure decent, where we like our water pressure or we don't like it. And
Mm.
those water towers actually control our water pressure, and they do hold the water and they distribute it. So the way you got to look at it is when you see one of those huge tanks, is that there is pipes going underneath all throughout the neighborhood. Some of those neighborhoods are old and they have old cast iron pipes. Chlorine is corrosive. It will start to break down some of those pipes, and so we end up taking those in. So you'll get rust and you'll get heavy metal coming through. But the pressure, the part of the pressure is a big deal because sometimes you'll have like my house. I'm in Duncanville, and my water pressure is like ridiculous. It was over 100, which can blow pipes and do all these things. So you
Wow.
learn so you learn a lot about, like what's in your water and what's good about it. And the reason that I kind of picked water was because I saw that it's a need. It's not a want always. In certain parts of Dallas, like if you go to downtown Dallas, like what I was saying earlier with the water being in a softness of it was soft back then and now it's hard. When you get
Yeah.
hard water, I think everybody's dealt with some level of hard water. Most of us don't necessarily know what it is all the time. Just kind of live with it in the city. It's not that big a deal. But the closer you get to like the downtown areas, the hardness gets really bad, and you start to see like for example, I had a client in downtown Dallas who he wanted a softener mainly because he was entertaining and he went to get water out of his refrigerator and kind of a clump of white stuff just kind of fell into the water. And yeah, yeah. And if none of us pay attention to this, but when you do, like if you were to, the best way that I always, when I come into someone's house and I'm talking to them about their water, is I'll grab the faucet, and most of the faucets now are stretchy, where you can kind of pull and retractable. If you pull it
Yeah.
and look at it, you'll see how bad it looks. It'll be rusted. You'll see some black stuff. You'll see a lot of white stuff on
Like,
there.
clean out of the faucet in the water.
It's stuck in there. So what it is, essentially, it's a rock. It's rock. Magnesium and calcium, when they bind together, they make a rock. And
Mm,
then there's other stuff. There's heavy metals that come through the water. What's big now is PFAs and PFADs. Those are forever chemicals. So
mhm.
we've heard a lot about forever chemicals, and we don't know, exactly like all about it. The news is kind of either too informative or they're vague about what's in there.
Yes.
And it's a lot. It's a lot to take in. But the easiest way to look at it is these are chemicals that don't ever come out of your body. They will never come out. So what we need to do is mitigate it. We need to lessen it as much as we can, and so there's systems for that. They're not complicated. Most of these systems, it's called a reverse osmosis. It's a drinking water system. They come in very different designs, some that take out minerals and then put them back in, and some that just do are really convenient and easy to use. But for the most part, I would say in the next 5 to 10 years, almost everybody in DFW is going to need one. Right now, it's probably already there because we have forever chemicals. But the sense that nobody, and this is one thing, nobody ever says, "Let me go get a tall glass of water out of the tap." Nobody says that. Everybody knows.
Bottled water, I get my water is delivered in the big 5-gallon thing. We don't even drink our tap water anymore.
Nobody wants to do that. After I show someone what's in
Do
their
you
water,
drink the water?
do I drink the water at a tap? No.
So you can have for our listeners, this is the water guy telling you he doesn't even drink
Yeah.
the water.
No, there's no way. No, if you so there's a website that you can look at. It's a free website. They're a watchdog group. They what they do is they go out and they test everybody's in all of the U.S. They test everybody's water. They're a 501c, so they don't get any money from the government. They don't get anything like that. But they test everybody's water. When
Mhm,
I first got into water, the first people I checked was my parents in Dallas. Wow, the stuff that was in it is really crazy. They had a genital warts medicine cream that had been, I don't know how it got there, but it showed, and it marks it parts per billion and parts per million. Parts per billion is when it's fairly diluted. When it's
mhm,
in parts per million, it's still pretty decent size. So, for example, just to get the gauge of what it's parts per million, at parts per million, if you have 5 parts per million, you're kind of looking at it being like the grain or about the size of a an aspirin pill at parts per billion per million. So, for example, if you go into and I test water and I'm looking at, let's say, what am I looking at? If I'm looking at about 5 parts per million of let's just say that in your water, then that's how hard your water is. You have that much inside of a measure of 1 gallon of water. So one aspirin tablet inside of your gallon of water. So it's a good healthy amount. Nobody wants that. If you have, for example, in downtown Dallas, they have 10. They have 10 parts per million of 10 grains hardness, basically. So at 10 grains
mhm.
hardness, so they're at 2 aspirin tablets per gallon of water. If you were to see that, that water looks milky. It doesn't look clear. It looks milky. It looks cloudy. So the more of that you add into it, the grosser it is. There's a lot of these chemicals are translucent. You can't see them.
Yeah,
So if you go into like the genital warts, I mean, I don't care how diluted it is. I don't want that in our water. I don't want that in my parents' water. Like, what does that
yeah,
do to you? So, and that's just one of the things. If you go onto the website, which I'll remember here in a minute, and I'll give it to you, but if you look at just through your zip code, all the things that are in the water, most of them are carcinogens, and that's really, that's really rough. When all of our water, it's not getting any better, it's getting worse, and we have to do something about it. The city itself
yeah,
is doing their best. They're not trying to hurt you. They're doing their best, but they can't filter out that much, to
yeah.
the degree that actually they're doing a really good job. The city of Dallas is considered a superior water district, I believe. Um,
Really?
yeah,
Other cities or compared to national?
nationally. Yeah. So Dallas is in a sense of what they're doing to keep, for the most part, all they're trying to do is keep you alive. For how long is
Mhm,
up to you, so
yeah.
so so like the
Now
bacteria.
you know how some people tell us to boil our water before we use it? Is that actually helping to get some of those things out once we boil it, or
No,
it doesn't?
remember the city is just trying to keep bacteria and virus out of it. Bacteria and virus are the most important things for them to keep out. They're not trying to
Right.
do anything that. That's where the chlorine and ammonia come from. The chlorine and ammonia
Mhm.
is going to get rid of all of that. Everything else is really on you. That's where the reverse osmosis comes in. It will filter out 99.999% of all of that out. And that's really exact. And to be honest, they're getting rid of the majority of everything on that. It changed the taste of the water, so it does taste different. It tastes better. It tastes really good. So, for example, if you've ever been to Starbucks,
Mhm.
and you've just gotten a venti water, it's free. And any of the listeners who are out there who want to see what does reverse osmosis water taste like, just go to Starbucks, ask for a venti water or whatever grande. I don't know. They all mean large, but just a water from them, and you'll taste what it tastes like, and it tastes really good. It's refreshing, and it's better for you. Yeah, and it doesn't have forever chemicals in it. So, well, it's a lot to say, and I still have a lot more, but that's kind of what led me to starting it. Is that I saw that there's such a big need, and there are a lot of people out there that are in water, and it's growing. It's a growing industry. As the water gets worse, it's gonna get more a little bit more crowded. But yeah, I started it in 2023. I started with doing a lot of downtown Dallas, downtown Fort Worth, a lot of the north into Prosper, Salina. But I also really, really enjoy dealing with well water. Well, yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
like well water the most actually.
Yeah.
Well water in here, like just because we're in Texas, there's wells around me here in Duncanville. and nobody would really think that. But there's wells everywhere, and wells are, to me, it's the best kind of water. If I told my wife that if I get the business to like blow up this year, then I would really like to buy 10 acres of land as far away from the city as possible,
Yes.
and put a well there, just because it's really good water source. It isn't any cleaner. It isn't any cleaner. If anything, it's probably dirtier. Well, because we haven't done a really good job as, I don't know, just humans, of taking care of our water sources. Yeah, we dump everything into it. Yeah. I have a client in Springtown who he's really interesting. They had like 300 acres over there, and went out there, and he had a nice well and nice well house, and he wanted to do something about his water because it smelled like rotten eggs. So yeah, so all his water smells like rotten eggs. So and the hotter you get it, the more it smells. So
Wow.
if you want to take a hot shower and come out smelling like rotten eggs, there's a lot there. So yeah, when
It's also impacting, that's why we're a little bit drier than when we come out of the, showers and stuff too. It dries our skin out.
Yeah, well, in the city, yeah, because of the chlorine, you're gonna get, and I'll give you some of the pros and cons. So, for example, this client that's out there, he's dealing with no chemicals are in his water, that anyway, and no chemicals that the city is putting in. He's in charge of his water. There's nobody else looking at his water, so whatever comes out of that water source is on him. It's on him to take care of. And so
Mhm.
you'll see a lot of people who will say, I love that water. It comes out cold from the ground. It's always great and all of this, but it's chock full of bacteria, virus, and all these things, and there's nobody looking at it. So it's only up to you to take care of it. So it's a different need there. So they have a need over a want because,
Ye
yeah, my wife is not going to shower in rotten eggs. It's not going to be very good if I build a house over there and she wants to take a shower and it smells, like rotten eggs.
Yeah.
And on top of that, who's going to want to drink that customer? I talked to his dad. His dad has a house on the property, and he said he doesn't want a water system on his property. He said anybody who comes to visit me will just have a stomach ache for a couple of days, and then they'll get used to it and they'll fine. Yeah,
No!
yeah.
No, that's terrible.
And so could you imagine inviting everybody over and everybody gets a stomach ache, and putting it as a stomach ache is the nice way because it's diarrhea.
Goodness. So what's
So
that process like, the process of the what you do of filtering it out, like, how extensive is this? Is this like it takes a month to do, or, like, how does it work?
So it switches. The way that the city operates is what now you're paying for when you go to the country. So where in the city you're doing chlorine and ammonia to get it out, to get
Mhm.
all this stuff out, and they don't care about all the other stuff. In the country, you have to chlorinate the water before you pull out all the metals and all the calcium and magnesium and all these other, kind of loose things that are carcinogens. Before you pull any of that stuff out, you have to chlorinate it first. So you have to kill everything in there first, basically. So there's a chlorination system that we build that basically injects chlorine into the water. And chlorine, as you know, will kill stuff immediately. So
Yes.
as in the process is we take the water, we put it in a tank, we chlorinate it, we pull it out, we actually push it through UV as well. UV also kills all these bacteria and virus. So it's a kind of a polishing at the end. So it kills everything on the way out. If it pushes it through the water softener will come in and pull out any heavy metals, any heavy minerals, any of those kind of things, and then pushes it out. So you're getting a way better product at the end. On the city side, the difference there is if you're operating just like the guy who's on a bunch of acres and is okay with getting diarrhea in this city, what you end up with is when you have hot water, when you're taking a steam shower and you're dealing with some of this high chlorine, because different parts of the cities have higher amounts of chlorine and ammonia in their water. So sometimes what will happen is you'll actually get a kind of like an after effect when you heat water and it hits your shower floor, it releases gases. And so
Mhm.
chlorine is naturally a gas. It wants to be a gas. So the moment it gets heated or agitated, it gets aerated and it wants to become a gas. So you're going to end up getting hit with a lot of the chlorine and ammonia as an after effect. So some people have been, and this is pretty common, but some people get dizzy in the shower because of some of these things and can get nauseated because of this. We don't take it as anything. We just think I ate something or something
Yeah.
happened. Yeah, but it's because of our water.
So this very, like, you just don't know until you don't know, like, right? I think if you're buying a home, like, how many people I guess maybe your realtor or something maybe would tell you, but I feel like how do you know? Who tells you this stuff if you don't know?
So it hasn't the thing is with us here in Dallas Fort Worth, the water hasn't
Yeah.
gotten quite hard enough and it hasn't gotten bad enough yet here. If you go a little bit further south to San Antonio, everybody is required to have a water softener. There is
Oh,
no, yeah, there's ordinances there. You have to have them. So in the country where they're already at that state with well water, where their water hardness is about the highest I've seen it out there is about 34 grams, so that you're looking at it being close to about 5 of those aspirin tablets in a gallon of water. And it doesn't sound horrible, but when you see that diluted, you see all that, you're taking about, I would say you're probably taking about 2.5 ounces of powdered aspirin, and you're pouring it into a gallon of water. Now, obviously, you don't want to drink that. Also, and that powder is magnesium and calcium with a bunch of other little outliers. But once that stuff comes off and it's running through your pipes, just like arteries, it will stick to those pipes. When you get to 20 grams per million of hardness, you will get stuff like toilets that you have to replace once a year because they won't flush anymore. You'll have, yeah, yeah, your pipes will start to get really packed where you have to replace them after about 5 years. That's why, so like right now, whenever I do any that are like residential houses that have been around for a little while, the hot water heaters go out pretty common because, and you may not see this, but in the trades, you see a lot of plumbers talk about this where the hot water heaters are half full with magnesium and calcium. You don't really think about this. You just because you just say, I just want hot water.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
all I wanna take my shower.
yeah, yeah. But it's magnesium and calcium that get built up in it, and it doesn't go out. So most of us are supposed to flush out our hot water heaters like once a year. Who does that? Like who does that?
Mm,
Nobody does that.
I have ever heard anybody say those words.
If you see your hot water heater, after we get done with the call, like go look at your hot water heater. You'll see that it has where you could put your hose on it and run it out. So you're supposed to, you're supposed to do this stuff.
More you know.
Oh, and the water that comes out of there is like sludge. It's pretty bad. And you're actively using that water. You're using that water in every shower that you take. So there's a lot. There's a lot with water. Our water will eventually get to the point that we're like San Antonio, where we are, where every single household is not a need. It's not a want. It's a natural need.
Mhm.
It will get to that point. Right now, I'm going to say we're probably about 10 years away, 5 years away from that point. It's getting there. The further you go north, all of those people, clients, they already understand it, and so most of them already have it. I would say
O
it'd probably be 5 out of 10 people over there have water softeners for some sort of filtration. Yeah, so
okay.
it's a growing industry. There's quite a bit going on with it. There is some chemistry that makes it a little bit, like confusing, but
Yeah.
the basics of it are: do you want plastic in your DNA, and in your kids? And do you want to enjoy your water? So there's just a lot to it.
It definitely is, it definitely is, and it seems like I say, just being proactive and kinda doing the research for yourself and, wanting to make sure that your family is healthy as well is kinda what it's gonna take to kinda get on some of this stuff. So, predominantly for, like, as far as your, like, clientele, what kinda people or who your service directly to? Like, what kind of people would your service directly?
So it is built up on demographics. There's, I would say, up north, the majority of my clients are East Asian. Well, since they come from India, they already know, water is a big issue for them. They don't
Yeah,
have as much clean water over there. All the clean water they get is bought. So it's very different. We buy our water too, just to the municipality. Pretty early on, they understand that they need to get some sort of water filtration. And so they are the biggest client up north. When you
okay.
go Yeah, when you go further into like downtown Dallas, that's where like exclusively a lot of the rich, as you can put it, wealthy people, they want water. I mean, I've installed a $40,000 system for someone's yard, for their yard, not for their drinking, but for their yard.
To
So
water the grass, you mean?
yeah, yep.
Wow.
So when you own a large
Uh,
property,
this is better than most of us then.
yes, yeah, they're essentially they're watering their yard with bottled water. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, it's kind of the first time I saw that. The very first time I dealt with that, I thought that's really odd, but I thought it's kind of smart because this person chose to filter the water out of a well that he had drilled. That was it wasn't it's a shallow well. It's actually in Arlington, and he got it done so that he wouldn't have to pay for the water bill. So it was cheaper for him to buy the system one time and maintain it than have to pay for the water bill to do his whole yard, which was going to be, I think he has about 3 acres as his front lawn. So it was really nice
Okay.
lawn. Yeah. So
That makes So funny enough, though, I was talking to one of my coworkers today about well water and water rights. It's just such a random thing that I'm having this conversation with him, and I'm talking to you later. I thought it was so weird, but anyway, he was saying something about, I guess maybe there's a little bit of a fight with water right now, and now wells are going to cost a little bit more because the city is trying to. I don't know, something he was trying to explain to me. I didn't quite, but yeah, it's just interesting. I'm like, oh wow, I was just talking about wells today.
yeah. Well, yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on with wells. Yeah, that's going to change too. California actually was trying to charge people for their own well. So if in California, if you go get your own well, you drill it, and it's not cheap. Right now,
Mhm.
it's on average about 30,000 to get a drinking water well, which is
Yeah.
200 feet down. So if you go in California, if you were going to do that, they wanted to start putting meters and charging you for that
Yeah.
water,
Yeah.
which
Well, I feel
kind of
like that's
shows.
doing here too, right? Do you think it's
Yeah.
gonna be
It won't
yeah.
ever happen in. I don't think it'll ever happen in Texas. Texas
Oh,
won't. I don't think so. Not in Texas. We would. I think you and I would be way dead and gone by the time the it got to that point. But the being conservative on water is really important, and people taking care of water. People don't care. Right now, we're kind of sitting in this place where we're kind of rich with water in a sense of nobody's like saying we can't drink water, we can't take a daily shower. No, we can't
yeah.
take 2 showers a day.
Enough though, we used to have, like, pamphlets about saving the water and turn the water off when you brush your teeth. So I feel like we used to be a little bit more proactive about saying things like but I've not seen those same pushes or resources, which you would think it would be, worse now, but yeah, I'm not seeing that though.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not because of that thing. We don't have any. There's no strict demand. It's saying, hey, we're running out of water, unless you go further to the West Coast where they're struggling with water. Nevada and California, which California just had a big bounce back because they had a lot of water. But the thing is, even though we get all that water, it's better if we know how to recycle it now
Mhm.
and take care of it now. There's a lot of talk going around about it in my world. When you're dealing with water, we talk about water all the time, and
Yeah.
what's going on with the soil because the soil affects it immediately. And because we're dealing so much with oil here in Texas, that affects our water a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
there's tons. We have this thing that happens a lot here. Like I had a client reach out and he was developing kind of close to Italy, Texas. He had what's called brackish water. Brackish water is where your water comes out of the spring. It's a spring that comes up and it's full of salt, so it's salty water.
Okay.
There's a lot of demands that come up with basically all of the natural gas and oil being pumped out. Brackish water can happen in pockets on its own naturally, or it can happen because of all the oil pumping that's going on right now. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, they pump in a lot of chemicals to get that oil out, and they don't really care where those chemicals go. They just say, oh, the oil, the earth will do something with it. No, we end up drinking it. So whenever we get into testing water and checking water, you can go as extensive as you want, but our water has a ton of stuff in it that it shouldn't.
Mhm.
The whole thing is it's because there hasn't been enough conservation, there hasn't been enough care, people thinking about what we're doing. The guy who I sold the system to, who need a chlorination system that I told you in the country, he said I had to talk him out of changing his oil and dumping it out in the back behind a tree. Yeah, that's to him
Does
saying,
this oil in the yard?
yeah. Well, when you have 300 acres, what does yeah, yeah, you're not gonna see it. It's like go dump it in the oil hole. They didn't understand. And I told them, I said, there's many areas where the vein, because of the way our water works, it all comes out of the same veins. We only have 9 in Texas, and I told them, I said, you should be a little bit more, mindful because you may not drink that oil, but your grandkids will, and your
Mhm.
grandkids' grandkids will as well. It's like that oil will never come out of the ground, but it'll always taint all of the water that's coming out of it. So there's a lot of education that needs to take place on it. It's good for my business because nobody's doing what they're supposed to. But in the future,
Yeah.
yeah, it's
But for
gonna be.
our future, yeah, maybe not so much of a good idea. I wanna not leave our listeners to, maybe terrified from some of the information we have learned here tonight. So maybe you can provide a couple of more maybe some more tips of, things maybe they can do to maybe not ingest so many of these chemicals. Like, what kind of advice would you give us?
A little bit of advice. I think kind of disproving some of the there's a lot of gimmicks. There's a ton of
Yes.
gimmicks out there. One being the number one gimmick that I saw when I went to college. I think every college student takes a Brita with them. I don't know why.
Yes.
Yeah, but we take Britas with us.
That you can put on your water bottle with the little cap. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and it's like I think
Those are terrible. They don't work?
the they do something. So what they do is the little pack that you put in it, the little black pack, it's like a little pouch. That has carbon in it. That carbon is made to take out basically ammonia and chloramine. So that's the only thing it takes out. It doesn't take out anything else. That's why it tastes better. Yeah, that's why if you think about it, when you go into the pool and you got a mouthful of chlorine water, it tasted bad, you know. And when you were a bad little kid, and at the end you burped and it tasted like chlorine because you were in there drinking up all this water. Um, that's what you got. The the Brita's doing the bare minimum. It will say that it does more, but it's been proven they've been sued over it. It doesn't do a lot. All it does is make you basically it makes poison taste better. That's about it. That's all it does.
Okay.
Yeah. So what you can do instead of that is getting an under your sink. You can install a reverse osmosis system. There's very basic ones. There's more complicated ones. The more basic they are, the more maintenance they are, the more, let me say, more up to date, the easier they are to change filters and all that.
Okay.
They do make the water taste better because they remove everything. It goes down. You know how I was telling you the softness where everything is, by the aspirin tablets and all that. This will take it
Mhm.
down to zero. So there's a thing called TDS. This is how we gauge water when we test it for drinking, and the TDS stands for total dissolved solids, or total dissolved salts because they all break down into salts. DFW is sitting around 300 TDS in total dissolved solids. If you grab a Costco water or Sam's water bottle, it's going to sit at about 8 to 12 because they put minerals in it. So 8 to 12 TDS. So that's a very good number. You don't want it to be at zero. At zero, it's not really drinkable for us. Water always wants something with it. It will start to pull stuff out of your bones if you have it so low. So 8 to 12 is where we want to be at. A little bit lower is fine. If it's sitting at around 4 and 5, it's fine. But that's what we do. If you were to take Brita and test the water, it will be the same as tap water. So
Okay.
it doesn't affect it at all. So the easiest thing to do is install a reverse osmosis system. They're very basic, nothing complicated. I know a lot of people will say, but I'm just going to drink out of the refrigerator because the refrigerator filter is doing it. The refrigerator filter is the exact same thing as your Brita. It is not doing
Mm.
anything. Actually, your refrigerator filter to me is worse because they're charging you so much money for a very cheap filter because those filters are anywhere from $80 to $150, and you have to replace them every 6 months. And that's just been like this thing that I hate that about refrigerators. I really don't like those because what they do is they make it so that you're kind of hooked onto this system, right? But this thing is made. You're taking out chlorine and ammonia that's coming in from the city that kills in bacteria, right, and virus, and then you're pumping it through a refrigerator that you never clean. You never go in and clean all these little tubes and things that are inside. So most of the time, when you take one of these apart, it's full of bacteria. So I hate those. Those are the worst. It's great for the manufacturer because they're making, 80 to $100 off of you every 6 months, but they're worth. And that carbon can last forever. Carbon
Yeah.
for that, yeah. So it's not supposed to go out that often. So those two things. So you can hook up your same under the sink reverse osmosis system to your refrigerator, so it's not a loss on your refrigerator, and have one
Nice.
through your sink, so you can have two duals, and they're better for cooking. It's way better. So when it comes to showers, if you want to take a shower without that chlorine and ammonia, it's like drying out your hair. That
Yeah.
happens a lot. I've had so many people. I have two girls, two daughters, and a wife, and their hair changed a lot once we installed a water softener. So if you can't afford a water softener, or you're in an apartment you can't put one in, then you have to get a filter for your shower head. You have to, because especially if you're a woman. If you're me, I don't have anything to worry about.
Yeah.
If you want,
In like a softener shower head thing somewhere and get it Amazon somewhere like that, right?
yeah, you can get the shower head filters. They're pretty simple. They're not going to last very long, probably only a month to 2 months, because they get clogged in. Depends on your area. A water softener will help you long term. I've had people call me out to install a $10,000 system, like gone all out, just so that just because their hair wasn't right. And I thought that's pretty crazy, but I could see the need.
Well,
Yeah,
you got it. It's worth it.
yeah, yeah. Hair salons. I've installed in a lot of hair salons because of that. Well, you want to get that. You ever go to the hair salon and then when you come out, you're like, why doesn't my hair act the same way? It's because they have a water softener. So it changes a lot. It does improve your hair. So those two things will help you a ton. It'll help cover the majority of everything. But I think what's important is knowing what's in your water, not necessarily being afraid of it. The city's already keeping you alive, and it won't fail on that. And especially if you're in DFW, they're not going to cause any problems to you there. But it's always good to know what's in it, especially if as you get older. I think once you hit 35 and up, you start to think of I need to take care of myself because
Yeah.
you're not 20 anymore. You can't just bounce back from everything. And so
Mhm.
typically, we want to invest in our health. And so water filtration is really, really good. I think most of my clients who invest heavily on it are 35 and up. So it says
Okay.
a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you have a little more resources and you're a little bit more concerned about those things. So yeah, totally makes sense. Well, I'm
Yeah.
gonna go ahead and pause it there because I feel like we dropped a lot of information tonight. So please give us your website again and any social media handles or anything that if people want to contact you for a little more information, can you give us some of that?
Yeah, yeah. So our website is ramadfw.com. You can always reach me at Will, or how do I have it's William at rhemadfw.com. You can always reach me there. Um, and yeah, I mean, social media, we're on Facebook. I think we're still under Raymond DFW. We do just about any kind of install. For the most part, I've done a lot of installs in downtown Dallas, downtown Fort Worth, and in neighborhoods in suburbs as well. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. This has been a very insightful conversation. I did not know. And that is going to do it for this episode. I'm very excited about, and that's going to do it for this episode of Life in the Deep podcast. And that's going to do it for Life in the Deep podcast. It was such a informative and educational podcast, right? I learned a lot of things. I hope you guys learned a lot of things. If y'all have additional questions, reach out to Will. As you can see, Will knows his stuff and he'd be happy to give you more information about water filtration and things that you can do to live a little healthier. All of Will's social and email and contact information will be available in the description. And of course, if you like this podcast, don't forget to like, subscribe, share with your friends. And if you really like this podcast, you could also support us monetarily by sending us a donation to the Cash App. That's Life in the D Pod. And then on our next episode, we're going to be talking more wellness, more money moves, more business, more small business owners, more creatives. We're just going to do more, every time. And until then, I'll see you guys next week. Blah. And in the meantime, eat well, spread love, and live free. I'll see you guys right back here next week for another episode of Life in the D Pod. Bye, guys.